For years, we've all kind of thought that intermittent fasting meant one thing, and one thing only: skipping breakfast. It seemed like a really simple health hack, right? But what if the latest science is telling us we've been getting it all wrong? Let's dive into what one of the top minds in the field has uncovered.
Now, that is a huge statement from a leading scientist like Dr. Rhonda Patrick. When someone who is that deep in the research does a complete 180 on their stance, you have to pay attention. There's clearly something really important here. So, what new data could possibly make her change her mind?
Well, it all starts with this one big misunderstanding: the idea that intermittent fasting is just about skipping breakfast. When most people decide to give fasting a try, their first instinct, and it's a logical one, is to just cut out their morning meal. It's the easiest way to shorten your eating window. Dr. Patrick even admits she used to do this herself. But it turns out this default approach might actually be doing more harm than good.
It's a totally fair question, right? I mean, fasting means not eating, and skipping a meal is, well, not eating. But here's the kicker. The new science shows that which meal you skip and why you're fasting in the first place makes all the difference in the world. The timing is absolutely critical.
So what's the actual problem with skipping breakfast then? It all comes down to what's happening inside your muscles.
Think about it like this. Your body is in this constant state of flux, kind of like a seesaw. On one side, you're building muscle. That's the anabolic state. On the other, you're breaking it down, the catabolic state. For health and longevity, the goal is pretty simple. Spend more time building than you do breaking down. So just think about what's happening overnight. After 8 hours of sleep, you're already in a fasted state. And here's the thing. While your body is great at storing carbs and fats for later, it has no reserve tank for amino acids. Those are the building blocks of protein. So if you wake up and don't give your body a protein source, it gets desperate and starts pulling those amino acids from the only place it can, your hard-earned muscle. Thinking of your muscle as a reserve of last resort is honestly the perfect way to frame it. You're basically forcing your body into a survival mode, sacrificing your strength and your metabolic engine just to get some raw materials. That's a trade-off nobody wants to make. So if we want to avoid all this muscle breakdown, what do we do? Well, it's surprisingly simple. Your muscles are basically just waiting around, listening for two very specific signals to grow and stay strong. It really just comes down to this. You need both fuel and activity. Signal number one is protein intake. It's like telling your body, hey, the building blocks are here, let's get to work. Signal number two is resistance training, which tells your body we need to get stronger, use those blocks to build right here. So when you skip breakfast, you're robbing your body of that first critical signal right when it needs it the most after that long overnight fast. And the consequences? They're pretty stark. For people who are trying to lose weight by just skipping meals without paying any attention to their protein intake or doing any exercise, up to 30% of the weight they lose can be precious muscle mass. That is the exact opposite of what you want for a healthy long-term metabolism. Okay, so if skipping breakfast is out, does that mean fasting is bad? Not at all. We just need a much smarter approach. And that brings us to a better way to fast. And this right here is the key distinction we need to make. Time-restricted eating, or TRE, isn't about skipping meals, it's about consolidating them. You still get to eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you do it within a more compressed window of time, say 8 to 10 hours. So why does this even matter? Because when your body isn't constantly working on digesting food, it can finally switch into repair mode. It's during this daily fasting window that all these crucial processes like DNA repair and this amazing cellular cleanup process called autophagy can finally take place. It's like giving your body's internal maintenance crew time to do their job without any interruptions. But here's the thing. Timing is everything. Study after study is crystal clear on this. Your body is metabolically primed to handle food earlier in the day. You're more insulin sensitive in the morning, which means you process nutrients way more efficiently. Eating the exact same meal late at night, it leads to a much poorer metabolic response. It's just how we're wired. So what does this actually look like in practice? It's pretty simple, actually. You could have a protein-rich breakfast around 8 a.m., have your lunch in the early afternoon, and then finish up with dinner by 6 or 7 p.m. That schedule gives you a solid 13 to 14-hour fast overnight for all those repair processes to happen, all without ever skipping a meal or breaking down your muscle. Now, it is really important to recognize that the best strategy isn't going to be one size fits all. What works best for you really depends on where you're starting from and, of course, what you're trying to achieve. And that's because the advice for someone who needs to lose a significant amount of weight is going to be very different from the advice for a lean person who's focused on performance and longevity. Context here is absolutely key.
Okay, let's break this down. If your primary goal is significant weight loss, then yes, meal skipping can be an effective tool to cut calories, mainly because your body has plenty of fat reserves to pull energy from. But for a leaner person, the priority shifts completely to protecting muscle mass. For them, early time-restricted eating all their meals in that compressed earlier window, is by far the superior strategy for long-term health.
So it really all comes down to this one question. Your answer changes everything. It's the difference between using fasting as a short-term tool for just dropping pounds and adopting it as a long-term strategy to boost cellular repair and preserve your strength for decades to come. The choice is yours.